Put God first.
Your presence in their lives gives them validation.
Our children don't need us to be superheroes.
If you do these things, the next generation and the generations that follow will live in a world far better than the one we have today.
Men, stand up, be fathers.
Hey guys, it's Mark, your host and founder of The Inspired Legacy. As always, this is the show that equips and inspires men just like you to unleash your inner lion and reveal your true purpose as spiritual leaders in your home. Well, today's show is the first of a new episode style that I'm going to be doing a lot more of this year. That's the plan anyway. I guess technically I did one of these in 2019, but at the time, it was just sort of on accident. It felt like a new format at the time. I didn't really have a name for it, but I liked how it went. I liked the production process in the back end. So I decided then and there that I wanted to do more of these going forward. So basically, the Inspired Legacy podcast is going to consist of 2 episode types going forward. I'm going to continue to do this longer format interview style that you've come to know, but I'm going to be mixing in this new format that I'm calling the Gut Check series. And these are going to just consist of me, flying solo, but they're going to be shorter. They're going to be focused on a single point. And my hope is that they're going to challenge you, maybe even spark some action in your life as it relates to your marriage, fatherhood, and spiritual growth and whatnot, all the things that we typically touch on in this show. But anyway, I'm excited. I'm excited to mix it up a little bit, and we'll see if these, prove to be a little quicker to produce. Then this series may allow me to kind of speed up my episode frequency down the road. But in the meantime, I'm happy that you're here listening. And I have what I think could be a really powerful tool for you guys as it has to do with this concept of purposeful fatherhood. Now, it's obviously we can all become parents by accident, right? I know that better than anybody. My wife and I got pregnant when we were 19, and that certainly was not planned, but as God tends to do, he makes things work according to his good. So as we can become parents by accident, we don't really become genuine dads until we really put some effort into it. And again, that's what I want to talk to you guys about today, this idea of purposeful fatherhood. And you and I know that there's just way too many guys out there who, they are parents, obviously, but they're just kind of going through the motions. And they parent their kids with this, I'll call it this default approach. And what I mean by that is they parent out of reaction, out of, what was maybe modeled to them by their own parents, whether it's good or bad. And, perhaps more or most dangerously is that they parent based on the world and what the world suggests is acceptable parenting. So in other words, what I'm trying to say here is there's just a significant or a serious lack of a biblical worldview when it comes to what parenting should consist of. So the idea that I want to get across here is that as spiritual leaders in our home, and you're going to hear me use that phrase a lot in this episode, I think, but that is our primary role, or one of our primary roles. And as spiritual leaders in our home, we've got to be more thoughtful and strategic about how we parent. Any good leader is thoughtful and strategic, and raising our kids, I don't think should be any different, probably even more so. It's our responsibility to crack the code, if you will, that our children possess so that we can influence, not dictate. Okay, that's different, but so we can influence their thoughts and their words and their actions. We've got to get to their hearts, because let's face it, our kids' hearts, they're going to be influenced by something, right? Or somebody, whether that's at school, whether it's a classmate or a teacher even, something they see online, and Lord knows there's tons of stuff online that can pollute our kids' hearts, and TV's not much better. The music that's out there for them to listen to, you name it, there's tons of opportunities. We need to think of this as a race, really. And when you think of it in terms of a race, the first one to our kid's heart wins. So, this topic is, I think, it's very important, and I hope you guys take note, because I think this is going to be a really thought-provoking concept for you. So one approach that I think that we have to consider as dads is, I'll use the phrase or the term child-centric fathering, right? And as I say that out loud, I can almost hear you guys kind of give me the squinty side eye. But hear me out here. When I say child-centric, here's what I don't mean. I don't mean that our kids should just take over and we simply dote on their every need, right? I don't mean that our kids should become our idols, meaning everything that we do every day of the week revolves around our kids and their schedules. I don't mean that we should live vicariously through our kids. And I don't mean that our kids should get to live life with no rules, with us just kind of following behind them, cleaning up the mess. Okay. I don't mean any of that. What I do mean is that as fathers and as spiritual leaders in the home, there's that phrase again, we should be there to offer wisdom and a perspective that they probably don't have at that young age. We know whatever age your kids are right now as you're listening. We should attempt to walk alongside them, not in front of them, dictating how they go through life and dictating their decisions, okay? Not in front of them and not behind them, cleaning up after them, right? And letting them just kind of run amok. But walk alongside them, helping them look at life through a biblical lens. You know, ultimately, the hope is that by doing that, we help them develop biblical wisdom, right? And equip them to live the rest of their lives through a biblical lens. So there's one verse that I wanted to touch on that I think kind of helps paint a picture of what I'm talking about here. It's a well-known verse. I'm sure you've all seen or read it, but it's Proverbs 22:6. And Proverbs 22:6 says, and I'm reading from the ESV here, it says, "Train up a child in the way he should go. Even when he is old, he will not depart from it." I want to read that first half again because it's key. It says, "Train up a child in the way he should go." Now, I'll be honest, this escaped me for a long time, but what King Solomon is talking about here in Proverbs is exactly what I've been talking about so far in this episode. This verse isn't saying that we should raise our kids with an authoritarian hand alone, even though, you know, having authority in their life is necessary, but it's not saying that as kids we should be like, you know, you need to live your life like this because that's what I did and that's what you're going to do. That's not what this verse is saying either. The line in that verse, "in the way he should go," simply means to raise our kids based on how God designed them, how he wired their personalities, and by the strengths he's given them. So as dads, as our kids' spiritual mentors, if you will, again, it's our responsibility to discover how our kids were wired by God and then help our kids understand their uniqueness and how to leverage it so that they can then step into who God designed them to be. Now, the good news in all of this is that I don't think it's complicated. Really, I think it just requires us to be intentional about it by spending quality time with our kids. And I know that can be a challenge with our busy work schedules. And it can be as little as, you know, a few minutes a day. Hopefully it's much more than that, but they value any time, any quality time that they can get with you. B, listening to them, understand their perspective. Even if you think it's silly in the moment or you don't feel like you have time for it, calm yourself, calm your mind, and force yourself to listen and really hear them. Don't just nod your head and agree. Just really hear what they're saying. And C, learn how your kids think and how they operate. I'm going to be the first to raise my hand here and say that I failed at this for a long time. You know, many, many times as a dad. There were years where this concept really never even dawned on me, right? I was probably one of those guys just kind of going through the motions for my early parenting years. But fortunately, you know, through study, surrounding myself with guys smarter than me, this particular concept has thankfully kind of made its way through my thick skull over the years. You know, as we wrap up here, again, I mentioned this was going to be a shorter episode. This is the time where it's gut check time, if you will. Ask yourselves, have you made the time to understand your kids and what really makes them individuals Do you understand your child's spirit well enough to draw upon what I've been talking about here and leverage your understanding of your own child to give them spiritual guidance that's unique to how God created them? And are you able to paint a picture for your kids of what God has planned for them? We never know exactly what God has planned for them, but it's our job, again, to envision what we think could be God's plan for them. And again, paint that picture for them in a way that resonates with them, that speaks to them, so that they can latch onto it and share in that vision, fully stepping into what God has planned for them. So if you guys fall into the bucket of, gee whiz, I could probably, get a lot better at this, then here's your challenge. Work on it. Work on it, because it's never too late. Even if your kids are grown and gone, guys, we never stop being dads, and it's never too late to be a dad on purpose. That's all I've got for you guys today. If you got anything out of today's message, please share this message with a friend, share this episode with a friend. I'd be grateful if you could take 5 minutes, leave an Apple Podcast review. Again, I feel like a broken record, but that really helps the show climb the ranks. And, please know that the objective of getting reviews is not for my own notoriety at all. It's just simply to help get the message out, the message of the guests that we have on the show, and really the entire mission of the Inspired Legacy, just to get it in front of more men all over the world. And finally, if you're listening to this, I know you're a man of action. I just called you to action here a second ago. You might be looking for something more in life. Maybe you want to know more about the Christian faith and how it could help you become a better man, a better husband or father. Whatever brought you here today, I want to invite you to our private Facebook group. Again, this is a closed group, and in it, you're not only going to find other like-minded men, men of all ages and walks of life and degrees of faith, but you're going to find men who are all focused on the same thing, and that's to learn and grow, to sharpen each other, and lift each other up as we all battle life together. If that sounds like something you'd be interested in, I really encourage you guys to check out that group. You won't regret it. There's a link to that group in today's show notes. And that's it, guys. Thanks for listening. Again, if you got anything out of this episode, subscribe, leave a review, share our message, because when we work together to lift up fatherhood, we're going to change the world one dad at a time. All right, fellas, until next time, live inspired.